Hi everyone. Today I will be presenting my critical paper to you, and I'm just going to basically touch on the main points of my critical paper and what stories I chose and how it relates to my life, and also some of the literary terms that the authors chose. So to start it off, the first section of Innocence and Experiences. The piece that I chose was The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros, and this piece basically explains how the family is constantly being let down, which is mainly because the family sets high expectations for how they want their house, and the author explains how the house looks and why they don't like the house, and there's also a lot of contributing factors to why the family doesn't like the house they live in, such as society in general. They constantly tell you that if you don't have this, then you're not worth anything. Also, the nun in the story, almost towards the end, who looks at the girl and looks at the house and says, "That's your house," as if it shouldn't even be considered a house, and she just felt lower than she had already felt. So that basically relates to my life because I do set high expectations for the future, and sometimes I forget to live in the present and stop living in the future. So I think that story was a big eye-opener for me. The second section in my paper I actually did wrong. I thought salvation was part of conformity and rebellion, so I'm just going to talk about two kinds and how it relates to my life and some of the literary terms that the author decided to use. So the author in the story uses allusion, which is a reference to something outside of the work of literature, and she uses Shirley Temple, Reader's Digest, Ripley's Believe It or Not. This gives the reader a little bit more understanding about what the author is talking about. Instead of making something up, then the reader wouldn't really get it. If she says Shirley Temple, the readers would know exactly who the mother wanted her daughter to become. The third section, which is Culture and Identity, I chose E.E. Cummings, The Cambridge Ladies Who Live in Furnished Souls, because I am very religious and I sing this in the church all the time. The author uses a metaphor to explain the title, The Cambridge Ladies Who Live in Furnished Souls. Their souls are furnished by the fact that they go to church, they do charity, but it doesn't make up for the fact that they're not actually there for the reason of giving to charity. They're kind of there because it's a social thing, it's the in thing, and they get information from other ladies at this place. E.E. Cummings also uses a simile at the end of the poem, and it says, "Moon rattles like a fragment of angry candy," and the moon symbolizes the nature of the work they're doing, such as charity, like I've discussed before, and it basically says that it rattles because they're not paying attention to the fact that they're doing it for charity. They're just doing it because it, again, is a social thing, and they're talking to their friends about the latest gossip in the church. So the fourth section on Love and Hate, I chose Theodore Rope's My Papa's Waltz because I felt it greatly related to my relationship with my father. The author uses simile in this poem, and he wrote, "But I hung on like death, such waltzing was not easy." And this talks about he hung on to his father like death because death hangs on to us. We can't stop it, it's inevitable. And that shows that how the son felt about the father. He wanted to hold on to him like death hangs on to people. The author also uses more similes, and this can be seen towards the end of the poem where it says, "The hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle," and also at the last stanza, which says, "With a palm caked hard by dirt." This shows that the father was a very hard worker, and he didn't only work constantly, but it was hard labor, and although he worked hard, he still tried to spend time with his son. So finally, the last section of Presence of Death, I chose The Jilting of Granny Weatherall because this greatly relates to my life being a Chamorro. A lot of the people that I see who are going to die, they still hold their pride, and they act like everything's okay. The title itself is a metaphor, The Jilting of Granny Weatherall. Weatherall meaning she's weathered through it all, she's been through a lot, and she's gotten past it. Also, in the end of the story, it says, she stretched herself with a deep breath and blew out the light. She didn't literally stretch herself out and blow out a candle. She stretched herself out and blew out the light, meaning she eventually blew out the light of her life and she was dead. So this concludes my presentation, and I hope you all enjoyed watching it, and I hope you all have a great summer and enjoy it. Bye.